So folks, for the second part of this video, what I'm going to have you do is, if you notice, here's my virtual machine, and I'm going to log in with that local password that I created. I always like a good long password. And I'm going to start the sequence of updating the operating system. Now, unfortunately, folks, our current version that we're allowed to use with this license key doesn't have fall creators, so you have some work ahead of you. But I want to show you a couple things before you get started. First of all, go into Internet Explorer, and as you know, I've already done this, but as you know, the first time you enter Internet Explorer, it's going to bring up a box and ask you which settings you're going to want to say yes, enable, and then you'll make sure that you're connected out to the internet so that you can start the update process, okay? So make sure you accept that. I find that to be a little key. It does a connection with IE so that updates can start to install. Then at that point, we'll just come in here. I'm going to start typing update, and I'm going to say check for updates. It's going to open the updates window for me. As you can see that it's done here, and I start to see this downloading updates. So at this point, you can watch this, make sure it starts to download the updates. Again, yes, I realize this is painful, but I think it's important for you to understand and especially get in the habit anytime you install a machine to get these updates. Now, there are ways in Active Directory for us to create a Windows Software Update Services server. I'm probably going to do one of those for our network so that I can get the updates to the server as we go through the class and they can still be installed on your machine. Okay, but I want you to go through this process. So at this point, what I can do at this point, is do a set it and forget it, okay? I can leave this open if I want. I'm pretty sure you'll have to check this, but you can simply, now that it's doing the updates, you can sign out, okay? I'm pretty sure the updates will still run. Double check this. I will as well. So I can't quite remember, but if you notice, my machine's still running here. Okay, so it goes down to 0. But my machine is still running. It's still doing the processes even though I'm not in. And then I can go ahead and right click here, okay, and log out of the machine, signing out. And folks, remember, don't hit shut down, please. You're on the physical machine at this point, and there's my machine running. I'm going to go ahead and just get back into my machine here. Remember, here's the Control-Alt-Delete, not the Control-Alt-Delete on your deal. Let me get back in. And if you feel like it, you can leave this part up. You know, I know other students won't mess with your machine. If you want, you can just leave this up here, check for updates. So if you notice it's still running, I can go ahead and just close the window. It's still running. I can still see it down here, and I'm not logged out. So you might actually do this, okay? So get all of those updates installed. And then what we're going to do is come back, and once we've installed all the updates, I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to go ahead and clean up the machine next, all right? So take care. So as you can see, students, I've started the process here. I've gone ahead. I've waited patiently. It took a while. Just be patient. That's all. Here's all the updates it wants to install. I'm going to go ahead and say install now. Now, I have had challenges with the Fall Creators update, in that it doesn't install. So what you can do is go in and make sure all the other updates are installed first. You can go into advanced options and say, hey, no, don't install that yet. Let's install everything else. But as you can see, it's going through the process the first time. It'll install these updates. Most likely it's going to go ahead and restart the computer. This is actually working pretty darn quickly once it's downloaded those updates to install them, as you can see. And I'll just continue this process until I get that screen that says there are no more updates, okay? And you're definitely going to want to get that screen because I'm going to be looking for a specific Windows version. I'm going to be looking for the Fall Creators version and a certain number, build number, which lets me know you've updated your machine when I run that PowerShell script. All right. I'll go ahead and pause this while these updates install and I start this process again. And here it is, folks. It just started right away downloading the feature update for the 1709 build. So as you can see, I'm going to go ahead, be patient with this, and we'll come back and do more. All right, so as we can see, multiple additional updates have been installed right here, and it looks like it wants to schedule a restart, but I'm going to go ahead and restart now. So it'll go ahead, restart, it's going to install these updates, and I'm going to just do this process again until I get that magic notification that there are no more updates to install. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. You've seen that you do updates, just continue to do updates, follow that. I'm going to pause it till I get that notification. Oh, so here we are. We're at that point where the Fall Creators update has been installed on my machine. I'm still going to go out, check for those final updates. I just had to come back, show you this real quick, and promise the next screen you see will be that, hey, you have no more updates to install screen. Then we'll move forward from there. All right, folks, so once we've installed all the updates, we're going to go ahead and clean up our virtual machine, and we have to do this process explicitly. Let me show you what I mean. So because I installed that Fall Creators update, there we are, I get this Windows old folder. All right. So let me go ahead and run properties on the Windows old folder. This is going to take a minute. I'll pause while it completes. So as you can see, this Windows.old folder, because I installed the file, the Fall Creators update, it created this. Okay. So here's the deal. We're going to get rid of this. There is no going back. We don't want to go back to the old operating system. And this is taking up 15.7 gigs, or so it seems, of our operating system. Let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to right click on the properties of the C drive. And if we go out to the C drive, we see 25 gigs here. All right. So what we want to do is from here, we're going to do a disk cleanup. Okay. So disk cleanup's going to run. It's going to go out. It's going to calculate everything. The interesting thing is at this point, we also want to click clean up system files. So it's going to rerun that assessment to figure out how many files we can get rid of. Okay, so I'll pause while it does that. And then once it runs, we're going to click on everything. If you notice, we're going to get rid of some megs there, some megs there. Don't worry, the big file is coming. I'm just going to click all of these. I find it to be comfortable. Remember, we're on a lab environment, so I'm not worried about anything previous Windows installation. Notice that 16.5 gigabytes that we're going to clean up. Okay, so I am going to choose everything in case I've put anything in my recycle bin, etc. And I'm going to choose OK. So at this point, it's asking me, hey, are you sure you want to permanently delete these? Yes, I do. Matter of fact, it might even come up and say, oh, wait a minute. You're about to delete a previous version. Here it is. If you clean up the previous version, there's no going back. It's fine. I'm good with it. No worries. All right. So anyway, as you can see, this is running. I'm going to pause again while it finishes. All right. So if you notice, it's almost done, and I'm going to explain while it's finishing why we're doing this. Now, this is going to take a while. I may have to pause again because notice it's deleting that 15.6 gigs or whatever it was. The reason we're doing this is because our virtual hard disk is nothing more than a file. Okay, and if we think of this as a database, the smaller the database, the more efficient our machine is going to run, right? If it's a small database, we can query the database very quickly. If it's a large database, it's going to take longer. It's the same thing with a virtual hard disk file. But there's a unique way. Normally on a physical machine, we would do that. Boom. Maybe restart the machine and notice all of that disk space is now gone. Okay. But there's a few keys to doing this in a virtual environment. The next thing we want to do is come into tools, just like we would, and we want to optimize the drive. All right. So I'm going to come out. I'm actually going to optimize the C drive. Okay. That's the only drive I have. If we optimize the recovery drive, not a great, huge thing. Notice it's emulating slabs. That means it's going through and cleaning up that virtual disk file. Okay. So it'll continue to do this, 0%. Notice here it goes. I'm going to pause while this completes. So as you'll notice here, I've optimized my drive. I'm getting 83% efficiency. That's okay. At this point, I can go through this process multiple times and clean it up if you so choose, but I'm going to get back a lot of the disk space. But let me show you something here. So now I'm going to close this. I'm going to say okay to this. I'm going to quickly come back here just to show you that we're at 13.9 gigs in what should be our virtual hard disk. Okay, So at this point, let me go ahead and shut down the machine. You're going to want to do this exact same process. I'm going to shut down my virtual machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to go look at the virtual hard disk. I was in C, virtual machine group. Here is my virtual machine, virtual hard disk. Oh, wait a minute. We were at like 13 gigs or something like that, and this is at 26 still. Well, that's because what we need to do is now optimize that file while it's closed. So as you can see, my virtual machine is closed. There we are. I'm going to come in here to the settings. So I'm in the Hyper-V Manager. I'm going to right click, go to settings. I'm going to find my hard drive. Here is my hard drive. By the way, at this point, if you'd like, you can actually remove, we can always put it back, the image file. Okay, so we can remove this. And if you notice, if we go up to boot now, if we look at firmware, you know, here's the boot, right? But we've removed that. So we'll see that that'll change here in a minute. And then let's go ahead with the hard drive. We want to click on the hard drive under the SCSI controller and choose edit. We're going to choose next. And if you notice compact, this option compacts the file size of the virtual hard disk. The storage capacity of the virtual hard disk remains the same. So we're not changing the 60 gig availability. We're changing how much drive space is actually used by the VHD. This is going to speed up the performance of our virtual machine. Okay, it's also going to take away all this unused space that we don't need. So I'll choose next and I'll choose finish. Now this takes a minute, but if you notice, it's going to edit that virtual disk. Now, folks, unfortunately, this is not a one-for-one. I'm not going to see an exact compaction down to the exact amount that my virtual hard disk is used. That's just the way it is at this point. Okay, so if you can see, this is going to take a while because it's running on a spinny disk. So I'll pause while it completes. All right, so it's finished up, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and say apply. I'm going to say okay. Now, if I go back out here to the C drive, go to C, find that virtual group. Oh, not that virtual machine. This virtual machine. There we are, virtual hard disks. If you notice, it's down from 25 or 26 down to 17. So, granted, we're at 13, it's at 17. We're good with this at this point, okay? You've completed this part of the lab. Congratulations. Take care.